I'm Tom Scott. I've been coaching in the NCAA for a little over a decade now. My background is mostly at the Division II level. And that's kind of one thing I always tell athletes when they're looking at schools. It's can be kind of overwhelming, right? Because there's probably 300 Division I schools, there's 300 Division II schools, and it's all about finding the program where you're going to be the happiest and where you think is going to help you develop, right? And so for me, I found a program. Ashland University is about 2 hours from where I grew up in Ohio. Very, very good Division II school. They had at the time some very, very strong middle distance runners. And so for me, that was the place. That was the place where I felt like it kind of met me where I was at in terms of my abilities. And I knew that they could help develop me, right? So I wasn't all that quick out of high school. I was a 158 guy, I think, in the open 800. I had maybe split 157 in some relays, but yeah, I went there, and over the course of my career from 2007 to 2013, I just kind of kept taking a little bit of time off every single year, and I ended up running 149. I qualified to the NCAA championships for the first time my senior year, and placed third at the indoor national championships in the 800. And I also had an opportunity to be part of our 4x4 relay, and was able to split 47-2 on a team that was All-American. We finished 7th overall. And then my last year of outdoors, I placed 4th at the NCAA championships in the 800. And I actually had a teammate, his name was Drew Windle. He won the national championships, and he went on to run with the Brooks Beasts and got second at the indoor world championships, I think in 2018. He ended up being really, really good, but we were teammates for quite a long time. And then kind of at the end of my running career collegiately, the original plan when I went to school was to do something in the medical field. I was looking at anesthesiologist assistant schools. I had a buddy who was doing it, really enjoyed it. I started applying for schools, and part of the application process is you have to write a cover letter. Why do I want to do this? And I couldn't come up with a real reason from the heart as to why that was my passion. And so I kind of panicked a little bit, but I talked with my coach. I was like, Coach, this was the plan all along, but I know this isn't what I want to do. And he kind of helped me out, walked me through it. And he said, well, Tom, what's your passion? Like, what do you want to keep doing? And I just kept telling him I wanted to run. Like, running was all I cared about. I felt like there was more in the tank. I wanted to qualify to a USA championship, and hopefully try to make a final. And he's like, well, Tom, I think that's great, but that's not a career path. And so he's like, one way that you can stay in the sport that you're passionate about is to go into coaching and figure out the coaching side of things. And it kind of sparked my interest, but I had no idea how it worked. And so he kind of helped me out. I came to his office a few times every week, and he kind of talked to me about recruiting, training plans, all the paperwork things that you need to do. And so I really enjoyed it. He thought I'd be do a good job at it. And so he helped me get a graduate assistant position up at Michigan Tech. They were in the same conference as the school I went to. And so I went there, I worked on my master's, studied for 2 years. And also I coached a group of 50 athletes. They're the head coach and the assistant coaches up there were Nordic ski coaches. And so they basically were like, Tom, you're in charge of all the distance runners, which was scary, but also I learned a lot in the process. There's no better way to learn than to just get out and do it. And so, but I was also training at the same time too. So during that time, I dropped my times down to 147 in the 800, 345 in the 1500. I qualified to the Indoor USA Championships in Boston in 2015, and I won my prelim. So I made my Indoor USA final. I qualified, and that was one of my big goals. And then in 2016, my head coach at Ashland, he left, and they replaced him with me. So I became a head cross-country coach at my alma mater. And I was still also at the time, I signed a Brooks contract. And so I was trying to train at a very high level and coach at a high level. And at about that time, I realized that I can't do both at the level I want to. And so I knew one had to give. And I ended up putting running on the backside for me, and was just now focusing on coaching and building the best programs that I could. And I was at Ashland for a few years, and then I made my way south. I coached in at a small Division II school called Coker in South Carolina, and I was there for 1 year. And I had this remarkable young lady that I got to work with. She at the time she was a 207 800-meter runner, and I worked with her, got her down to 201, and she won the national championship for the 800 in Division II, and broke the D2 record um, at the national championships. And so, which was absolutely amazing. And about 3 days later, I got a phone call from Coach Varenkamp, who is our head track and field coach here at UND. At the time, he was at Queen's University of Charlotte. Very, very strong Division II program at the time. And so he asked me if I wanted to work for him and be the distance coach at Queen's, and I accepted. And so I went to Queen's and I coached there for about 5 years. And we had some of the best distance programs in the country. I had 5 teams finish in the top 10 at the NCAA championships for cross country. I had a couple guys go 1-2 at the national championships in the mile. Felix Wamensberger from Germany, and then Danny Wallace from England. They went 1-2, and coached another guy, Seb Anthony, who got second at the national championships in the 800. Ran the 8th fastest time all time for Division II, and then shortly after the COVID year, Coach Varenkamp got offered the head coaching position here at North Dakota, and he brought the entire coaching staff up. I actually waited. He started in September, and so he wanted me to come up in September, but I waited because I wanted to see this cross country season out. Didn't want to leave the team in the middle of the year, and I was glad I did, because we had a women's team that finished 6th at the NCAA championships, and I had a girl, Fatima Alanis, who she finished 3rd at the national championships for cross country. And I'm actually going to get to see her this weekend, because we're going to the national championships for Division I. We had a young lady qualify, and she's now at North Carolina, and she qualified as an individual. So I'll get to see her run and see her compete. And so kind of everything's coming full circle a little bit. So I think a lot of times people think there is like relegations, or maybe I think the common thing here in the United States is people think that divisions are based on the school size. And that's completely inaccurate. Divisions are 100% picked by the university. So every university or institution can pick what division they want to be. They literally it's like I was at Queens, they were Division II. And after I left, they decided, well, guess what? We want to be Division I now. And so now they're Division I. And so it's there's some qualifications, right? Like if a school does want to switch over to Division I, they especially if they've got football, they have to pay a fee, and then they have to have a certain number of football attendance, things like that. But basically is what it boils down to, is the university's pick. It has nothing to do with size. They pick based on academics, right? Who they want to associate with, right? If I'm UND and I want to associate with a lot of other Division I schools, then I want to choose to be Division I, right? And actually, North Dakota used to be Division II. We were Division II up until about 2007, and then we switched over to Division I. So it's very interesting kind of how that works. And so you get every year you've got schools that kind of switch. And a lot of times they're switching from Division II or Division III to Division I, just because they want to get that extra bit of competitiveness. They know that as a Division I program, they're usually a little bit more marketable to other athletes, or even just to the general student body. General students would rather go to a Division I school and be able to go watch Division I basketball games or Division I football games than go to a Division II school and not have that. So it's very interesting kind of how all that works. I think you don't see as many Division III schools switching over to being Division I. A lot of that's because Division III doesn't have athletic scholarships. And so if they do switch to Division II or Division I, they have to start finding money to fund these scholarships. Usually is what you see is Division II programs switching over to Division I because they already fund the scholarships. And a lot of times, like in the sense of the last school I was at, Queens, they switched over to Division I because their enrollment was dropping. They only have about 1,400 students. And so their enrollment was dropping every single year. And so they're a private institution. So they're funded by just their tuition dollars that they bring in. And so one of the ways that they thought that they could increase enrollment was become a Division I university. And so it'll be interesting to see how that looks like over the next few years. But yeah, you bring up a good question.
Yeah.
You know, why isn't everyone just Division I?
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite nuts actually. So
And maybe if you fast forward 100 years from now,
yeah,
everybody will be Division I. I don't know. Yeah. So for cross country and Division I, they split the country up into 9 regions. Okay, so there's 9 different regions. Each region has probably about 30 to 35 universities in it. We're set at North Dakota. We compete in the Midwest region. So it's like North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, those states. So all the Division I universities in those states. Is how qualifying works as teams. They take 31 teams to the NCAA championships, and the top 2 teams from each region automatically qualify. So that ends up being 18 schools. So there's 18 automatic qualifying schools, and then there's at-large bids. Basically, based on how you do during the regular season, you can accumulate points, like who you beat from other regions, and then teams qualify. They take another, 13 teams that are at large. And then as individuals, they take the top 4 individuals from each region that aren't on a team that qualifies. So for example, like for us, we had a young lady, she's from Turkey. Her name is Yunja Kutluk. And she was the second individual. She finished 6th overall, but was the second individual that wasn't on a team that qualified. And so now she earned the right to go to the NCAA championships, and we're actually flying to Virginia this evening.
Oh, very nice. Best of luck.
Yeah.
Is it the 2 of you going over, or?
Me, her, and then Coach Varenkamp, our head track and field coach. We're going,
nice.
and she competes Saturday morning.
Very nice. I'm sure she's excited for that.
Yep, very excited. Oh, we had to change a lot of things. When we got here, the program was operating more like a club, like a running club, as opposed to NCAA Division I university. And so, you had people that were on the team, but weren't on the team, or they were, maybe they were only running 25 miles a week, 30 miles a week. And so we basically came in and we said, this isn't how an NCAA Division I program should be run. And, some people, you should ask Coach Varenkamp, first meeting when he got here, I think maybe 10 people quit the team because they were this isn't what I want. I just kind of want to half-ass my way through things. But we also had a really solid core group of people here that wanted to be good. They wanted to be, Division I athlete and be successful. And those guys stuck around, and those guys and girls stuck around. And, but yeah, we've, kind of changed the culture, shifted the culture. Everybody's on the same page now. Everybody on the team has the same goals of trying to be the best that they can be, and make the sacrifices to be the best runners and help us build the best program that we can be. And then on top of that, we've now had at least 1 full year of recruiting. This past year, we brought in 55 freshmen, 55 new people. It was, and we had 40 returners. So to kind of give you an idea, we brought in more new people than we had current people. And so, that's step 1 of kind of building our program. Right. And we're starting to see those results. Like on the men's and women's side this year, we had the program's best ever finish at the regional championships in the history of the program. Before this, every year, you go back and look, every year we were finishing 25th, 26th, 27th, 24th at the NCAA regional championships. And this year our girls were 13th and the guys were 15th. And so it's not where we want to be, right? We want to be top 10. We want to be working into that top 5 and have a shot to qualify to the NCAA championships. But we know that it's not going to happen overnight. It's a process, and it's develop the athletes that are here. Right. And I think we've done a really good job with that. Alec, we've got he's a junior on the team this year. His name's Alec. He's an aviation major, but he was a 155 guy when I got here. And last year he ran 148 in the 800. And so it took about 14 months to get him from 155 to 148. Now, like, that was always there. He was always capable of it, but I don't know if maybe he understood that it was or knew how to get there, right? And so we're just kind of helping all the athletes on the team kind of figure it out and show them, like, it's all about the aerobic development side of things. There's no shortcuts in our sport, and if we want to be the best that we can be, we've got to increase the volume. We've got to develop the aerobic engine. And even if you're an 800 guy, like, the aerobic engine is the most important thing. And so the guys and girls have bought in. It's been remarkable, and they're seeing those results. And so it's been awesome to see. And the other thing too, with that, we've been able to kind of take a step forward with the recruits that we're able to bring in too, right? Like, I remember having a conversation with the kid from Ireland when I first got here. He's a 148 guy. And he asked me, he's like, how many sub 150 guys do you have on the team? And I was like, well, right now we've got 0. He's like, well, what's your fastest guy? I'm like, he runs 155. Yeah. And now I've got 2 guys that run 148. I've got 1 guy who runs 149.0, and I've got a freshman last year run 150.4. Right. And so now when I talk to a 148 guy, I can be like, hey, you're not even the fastest guy on the team. Right. And so it's been helping with getting new, better, and more talented recruits as well. There's definitely a balance there, right? Like, it can't be all team and no individual, or all individual and no team, right? So, like, I think every athlete's a little bit different, right? And so every athlete that I coach has a unique mileage plan for them, right? They have all got their own Google Sheet calendar with their training and mileage in it. A lot of them are similar, but they're all a little bit different. Because I've got guys like Jamie Burns, who's running 85-ish miles a week, right? And then I've got, he's a little bit older, a little bit more mature. And then I've got freshmen who, they came out of high school and they were only doing 30 miles a week or 25 miles a week, right? And so those guys aren't on the same training plan. And so, like, even with the workouts, like, the volumes are different, the paces are different for each person. Because, like, if we're going to do a lactate threshold workout, everybody's lactate threshold's a little bit different, right? Jamie can go out and run 5:05 pace for 7 or 8 mile tempo on the roads, and that's lactate threshold for him, right? And then I have other guys, they might have to run 5:30 or 5:35 pace, right? And maybe they can't even do as many miles. They have to do like 4 or 5. And so there's a balance there of figuring out what type of training works for each athlete. And especially when you get to track season, because you've got guys who are focusing more on the 5K, 10K, and then you've got guys who are more like 8:15. And so we really try to get creative, though, because we don't want to take away the team aspect, right? So, like, in workouts and track season, I might have, like, everybody does the first half of the workout together, where it's like a lot of maybe lactate threshold work. Even the 800 guys will do that. And then once we get kind of through like 5 or 6K, we kind of branch off. Like, the 800 guys will go do some stuff at mile pace or some at 800 pace. Whereas, like, the pure 5K, 10K guys will just continue doing 5K, 10K stuff. And so we really try to still have that team aspect of, like, where we're working together, we're doing everything together, and helping each other through workouts. But then, we can't forget that everybody's kind of got their unique strengths and weaknesses that we have to also focus on. Yeah, so it's a balance. It's a balancing act, constantly balancing everything. Yeah. So it basically just, it's a numbers game, right? So we try to contact, as coaches, we try to contact as many athletes as we can. And it's sometimes challenging because, if I'm going through lists, like on Power of 10, right? I'm going through like lists in different countries. I might see some people that I'm interested in. They've got the times that I'm looking for, but then I don't have any contact info. And so then it becomes like a search where I'm like trying to find them on Instagram. And sometimes people have different names on Instagram, or sometimes I follow them and then they never follow me back. And so then when I try to message them, it goes into like this La La Land message group, right? And so it's a lot of that and just kind of filtering out. And then also, like, I think nowadays with the internet, I do get a lot of people that reach out to me as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like we've got a kid on the team. It's from Serbia. His name's Alexa. He ran 3:48 last year as a freshman, got third at the conference championship. But he reached out to me. He found me and sent me an email. And now he's here. And so it kind of goes both ways. But you know, it's just a numbers game. Because everyone's trying to find a program that's going to be the best fit for them. And right. And when people come to UND, I want them to be happy here. You know, I don't want to trick kids or force kids to be here and then they're just not going to be happy while they're here, right? I want kids that want to be here, and whether that's for the academics, for the coaching, for the facilities, for the opportunities. You know, we travel a lot and we fly all over the country to find the best competitions possible, and you know, not every program does that. So like, you know, I want people that want to be here because it just makes the atmosphere and the environment enjoyable. And you had mentioned that, you know, everybody kind of knows a horror story, right? Everybody has a friend from their country that went
Yeah.
to the US and got 8 stress fractures and just had a terrible experience, and the coach didn't talk to them or just doubled their mileage, right? You know, they went from 40 to 80 and just got broken, right? And I want to avoid that at all costs, right? I always tell, especially our international recruits, but this goes for all of our recruits, is I want them to have a good experience. I want them to enjoy every aspect that they can with the university that they're at, right? The practices, the academics, the professors, their classmates, their teammates, coaches. I want them to enjoy as much as possible, because if you're enjoying it and you're having fun, that's going to lead to development, right? If you're not enjoying it, you're probably not going to get better or run fast. Also, I'm trying to build the best team I can, right? And so if you're enjoying it, you know, if Jamie Burns comes here and he's enjoying it and he's having a good time and he's running fast, well, when I talk to the next kid from Scotland, Jamie is going to have really good things to say to him, right?
Exactly.
And it just helps me build the program, right? And so, so yeah, that's kind of who we are, what we are, and what we're trying to do. I just, at the end of the day, I want people to enjoy their American experience, especially if they're international, because it's, you know, in Jamie's instance, it's 2 years, right? Maybe 1 year, right? It kind of depends on what he wants to do, but it's at the most 2 years. It's a very short period of time, and so I just want him to have the best experience possible. It's flexible. It's person to person basis. I think times are important, right? But there's so many different things that we look at. You know, I look at age, right? You know, like a guy like Jamie Burns who's coming over as a grad student. Obviously, his times are probably going to need to be a little bit faster than somebody who's 17 years
Mm-hmm.
old and has, you know, a little bit longer to develop. But it also comes down to like affordability, right? Like not everybody on our team is on a full scholarship, right? And then in fact, the majority of our athletes aren't on a full scholarship and they're paying something, right? So like, it's kind of who we can get for what we're offering, right? You know, if I can get a 153 guy to walk onto the team because they can afford it, like great, perfect. But sometimes they can't, right? And so sometimes I have to help out and I have to kind of meet them where, you know, where they can afford it, right? And so there's so much that goes into it. And I mean, culturally too, right? I talked to you about how we've kind of shifted the culture. I always tell recruits there's 2 things outside of times that I'm looking for. One, I'm looking for people that are up for the challenge of being at UND and being a Division I athlete and helping us win conference championships, right? Like there's some sacrifices that those athletes are going to have to make to help us do that, right? It's not going to be all fun and games, right? We're going to have to make some sacrifices, put in some hard work, and you're not going to be able to go out on the weekends every single weekend, and because we've got practice and we've got competitions and things like that, right? So I want people who are up for the challenge of being Division I and trying to reach their full potential, right? So that's one. And then the second thing is I'm looking for people who are going to be great teammates. They're going to be there to support each other on and off the track, encourage each other on and off the track, and just generally build relationships with each other so that when they step to the line on race day at the conference championship, they're competing for something bigger than themselves. They're competing for each other. They're competing for the university. They're competing for their coaches, their family, right? And so I just need to make sure we've got a good foundation now on the team. And I think everybody's kind of bought into that. I just need to make sure that the recruits that we bring in and add to the group fit that as well. And if they do, we can help them develop. Like we can help them get better and hit the times that they need to hit. So it's a combination of kind of figuring all of that out. And then obviously the academics, right? The athletes have to have kind of what we offer here. And we have about 14,000 students here. And so we offer a lot. We've got a medical school on campus. We've got a law school on campus. We've got one of the best aviation programs on campus. And we've got basically every major that you can think of, which is really cool to see. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. I think one thing that's exciting for us is that we're a program on the rise, right? And I think it's one thing to maybe come into a program that's maybe already a little bit established, and they're already kind of at that top 5 mark in their region maybe, and they're trying to maybe build a little bit, but we're really on the rise, and I think it's exciting for athletes to come into a program where we're going to see a lot of growth in a really short amount of time. So I think it's unique. Not everybody wants that, right? But I think that there's a draw there in terms of the people that do want to come in and just kind of help us join a program and get in on the ground floor while we build a legacy, right? I think that's super exciting. I think the other thing too is the coaching staff, right? We've got a phenomenal coaching staff, one that has had a lot of success in the past, and we've won championships. Like we've won. Coach Fahrenkamp at Queens, before I was even there, won like 35 conference championships, and so that's something that that experience and that knowledge of how to win is something that we have here at UND, and we're bringing to the table for all of our student athletes. Just the opportunities that we can give, right? Like we're going to fly out to California 3 times this outdoor season. We're getting ready to fly to Boston in December for a really big competition on December 2nd. Hopefully see some really big 3K and 5K PBs. We're going to go back out to Boston again in February. And so, we're going to give our athletes the opportunities to compete against the best of the best in the NCAA, right? And I would much rather take our athletes to a meet where they PR by 10 or 15 seconds and get 50th place in the 5K, as opposed to, we could compete a little bit more locally and they could probably win and go jog a 14:40 or a 14:30, right? But I want to take Jamie to a meet where he can run 13:55 and be in 30th place, because he's going to have that train that just kind of pulls him along, and he could turn his brain off and just go, right? And so I think those are all really, really exciting things. And we want to win a championship, and I think it'll be very special for the people that are here when we win our first championship. Like those moments, if you win your 10th championship in a row, yeah, that's exciting and it's great, but like there's nothing better than being a part of a program that wins their first.